You know, sidebar. If Cartoon Network decided that they wanted to make a streaming platform, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, the original Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, the original Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon, if they wanted to make a streaming platform and put all the old shows, all the nostalgic shows on there, I would pay. Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Not Quite There podcast, where we navigate this chaos we call life through candid and vulnerable conversation. Okay. Okay. Today's episode, we're talking about the forgotten tweens. Now, if you don't know what a tween is, that is the in between ages of not being a kid, but also not quite a teenager, right? So that 9-year old to 12-year old age range right there. That age period, I feel like that age group of today is so lost. And the reason why they're so lost is because they're not catered to in the right ways. Like when we were 9 and 12, when I say we, I'm 27. So when we were 9 and 12 years old in middle school, about to go to high school, it was lit to be a preteen or a tween in 2007 to 2010. What? That was prime time television. Like Cartoon Network had shows like The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Courage the Cowardly Dog and The Misadventures of Flapjack and Chowder and Ed, Ed and Eddie and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. You had Codename Kids Next Door, Samurai Jack, Total Drama Island, just to name a few, right? Then you had Disney Channel, Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. You had Wizards of Waverly Place, Phil of the Future, even Steven, like all these great, amazing shows. Then you had Nickelodeon. Don't get me started on Nickelodeon. iCarly, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, Ned's Declassified. We had Fairly Odd Parents, Big Time Rush, SpongeBob SquarePants. Like, I know I'm bringing y'all down nostalgia road right now, naming and listing all of these TV shows, but think about it. Like, when these shows were on TV, and even Nick Jr., we'll get into Nick Jr. in a second, but when these shows were on TV, that's when they were focused on allowing kids to be kids. You know what I mean? Like they were really allowing us to try to find ourselves through these TV shows, try to find who you can connect to, maybe find a situation or a circumstance or an episode that really speaks to you. And that's when TV was real. Like it was really telling us about the outside world and trying to connect us to those things without, making us feel so overwhelmed. Even music was different. Outside activities were different. Like they catered to 9 to 12-year olds. That age range was catered to in a very, very, very particular way in 2007 to 2010. Like you cannot you can't get that back and you can't replicate it, honestly. And I feel like they have been trying to replicate it and it's not working. It's not working. Even Nick Jr. Let's talk about Nick Jr. for a second because Nick Jr., that was my shiz. I can't lie. Nick Jr. was Yo Gabba Gabba, Wow Wow Wubsy. We had Fresh Beat Band, Team Umizoomi, Wonder Pets, Nihao Kailan. Like, come on, please. Like, even though it's Nick Jr., right? So they were more catered towards children, like younger than me, but also at that time between 9 and 12 is when my siblings were born. My brother was born when I was 10. My sister was born when I was 12. So I was watching those shows with them. And also, my mom had a daycare center in our house. So, yeah, primetime kid television shows, I was watching them. And they were very, very entertaining. Nick Jr. even had, y'all remember Worldwide, the National Worldwide Day of Play, annual Worldwide Day of Play, where they would turn off all TV programs for 3 hours on Nick Jr. and force us to go outside and play. What channel, what station is doing that nowadays? Who is forcing kids to go and touch grass? Nobody. Why? Because technology has advanced in a way where we're all consumers of technology now. And now that when you have kids, people who are parents nowadays, sometimes they get tired of being parents, right? They get tired of, I'm not a parent, so I can't really speak on parenting. But people get tired of being parents, and when they get overstimulated and overwhelmed, they stick an iPad in their kid's face and tell them, "Here, go sit down and be quiet." Lord knows what these children are doing. Just the fact that the iPad is like an option, and like the first option, the go-to, it it proves problems for our children that's coming up and that's growing up. Like, they're supposed to be our future, but if you take that and give your future technology and just, here, take it, it's like, it's basically showing that you don't really care about what happens. You don't care about their future. You don't care about what they're looking at. You don't care about what they're indulging in. You don't care about the community that they're in on these games. You don't care about the people that they're meeting on these games. You don't care about the brain rot that starts to happen. Like, these are very, very developmental years. Very, very, very. And let me not forget about PBS. PBS that they just canceled. PBS was that girl. Cyber Chase. Was it Arthur? Um, 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 all these great, amazing shows. They're not coming to me right now, but PBS, that public broadcasting station, educational. Even though these shows were obviously created for entertainment purposes, right? They also focused and pushed education. The Reading Rainbow, they just brought back the Reading Rainbow. The show was canceled or discontinued or something, and they just brought it back, right? Comfy Couch, The Comfy Couch. All these different TV shows were focused on and based on education and pushing education and teaching kids to learn. These kids can't read nowadays. 12th graders, they can't do basic math. They can't read at past the 8th grade level. Like, and there's stats to prove that stuff. Like, I can put some stats on the screen, somewhere on the screen, so I can see, but this is what's happening because they're not that 9-year-old to 12-year-old age. 9, 10, 11, and 12, those ages are not catered to like they were when I was 9, 10, 11, and 12. And it's very sad. And those are really early developmental years. Like, that's like discovery age right there. That's literally discovery age. Because when I was 12, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and that age bracket, I hit puberty at that time. And I also was trying to find a sense of like who I am. I was trying to find a sense of self, sense of identity. I was trying to find where I fall in friend groups when I was in school. That's also a very early social developmental age too. Like, and like I said, trying to find a sense of self and identity during those years. Like, I wasn't around a lot of Black kids. I wasn't around a lot of kids that looked like me, a lot of girls that looked like me. All of my girlfriends were white and they had long blonde hair, straight hair, stuff like that. So it became a point of like assimilating to how they looked. I permed my hair. That's the first time I relaxed my hair, when I was 11, I believe. And I have pictures. I'll put all the pictures on screen for you guys so y'all can see. Like, I literally I was so Tumblr coded. We had Tumblr, and let me talk about that for a second. Social apps at this time were also very different. Now you have Twitch, everybody's streaming, kids can get on Instagram DMs, kids can get on TikTok, kids can download certain messaging apps, kids can message through these games, Roblox and all that BS. Nah, we had Kick, we had Tumblr. I mean, we also had Facebook. IG was just starting to come out around that time. We had AIM. We had BBM. I definitely had a BlackBerry. BBME, baby. Yeah. That times were so different. It was so, so, so different. And like I said, early developmental years, that's when you try to find out like how are you socially? What are some things that you know about yourself? What are some things you want to learn about yourself? And because kids of that age group are not tended to or catered to right now, they're all like losing their sense of identity and not finding it. before it gets to a time where they need to have it found. You get what I'm saying? Like, because once you start getting to like high school days and stuff like that, freshman year is like your debut as a teenager, right? So once you hit freshman year, you're going to be around a lot of different personalities. It's way different than middle school, way different. There's going to be a lot of kids that look bigger than you. You're also going to be in school with kids who are seniors, sophomores, juniors, right? So it's going to be a lot of different influence, a lot of peer pressure, a lot of things that an entire new world that you enter once you graduate from middle school. And so not having a sense of self, or any, like, just even a tinge, a little bit, not having that little sense of self or grasp on your identity, you will quickly get lost and find yourself in groups of people, or find yourself identifying as who you thought you wanted to be, who you thought you were, but you really aren't, right? And then that becomes a bigger problem, because now you have to unlearn all of that and then relearn something new, relearn who you actually are. So that's why I think that, social interactions at that time are is very important. I did definitely hang out a lot with my white friends. Like, we was lit, I'm not gonna lie. That was my first, I can say, my first time being introduced and experiencing, like, going out with friends and parents at the same time. Like, their parents would obviously ask my mom, like, hey, is it cool if da 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 da? They would communicate that, and then my mom would send me, and we would go bowling. We went to the beach. They took me to the movies. They took me, like, anywhere that they took their daughters, they took me too. Like, we were all so close together, and, like, really really good friends. Still to this day, those my girls. Like, those are my girls. That was my first time going to a bat mitzvah. Girl, I went to a bat mitzvah. I used to be like, hey, can I have one of these? Like, that bat mitzvah was lit, child. I'm like, can I have one? Like, I'm talking the pretty dresses and the mommy daughter dances, the mommy grandma dances, and the gifts, and the just so much fun. And, like, parents, that was my first time, because my mom, obviously, I'm her first daughter, right? She had her first child at 16. So, kind of helicopter mom in a way, just so that I can avoid making some of the same mistakes she did at an early age. I get it. Looking back, I get it. At the time, I hated it. So, being that my mom would, like, allow me to do these things, she also was like a helicopter mom in a lot of ways. Like, she was always making sure that, like, I I was with people that she trusted, essentially. Protection, right? Duh. And, like, that's why I said that looking back, I get it, but in the moment I didn't, because I didn't really have as much freedoms as I got older, if it wasn't within a certain group or a certain crowd or anything like that. And I was just happy that she allowed me to experience that, because she trusted their parents, she trusted the girls, and it was a good time. It was a good thing for me to experience that young, because I started to see, like I said, the differences in where I came from versus where they come from, and how they're raised, and, what their family life is like, and the things that they're used to, and just differences in culture, literal differences in culture. And so the music I listened to, that's when I was introduced to Paramore. I was introduced to My Chemical Romance. I was introduced to all these, like, white music artists, because those were my friends. And aside from, like, the girls that I hung out with, I also hung out with a lot of guys, a lot of boys who, they were all very very cool, very very cool peeps, and we we had a ball. Another big thing when it comes to the social interactions, like I mentioned earlier, I was a little bit of a heavier kid, right? So that impacted me personally and mentally a lot more than I would have desired for it to, simply because I started to feel like I didn't belong. Everybody around me looked very, very different. They were, taller, slimmer, of course, on the thinner side, long blonde hair, fair skinned, right? And I looked the complete opposite. Kinky hair, black, puffy. I mean, that's why I got a relaxer, because I wanted to assimilate to what my friends were looking like. Just all these introductions and identity and sense of self. That's why I say it's so important, because if you don't have any sense of who you are at all, you can quickly assimilate and completely forget about where you came from. Good for me, lucky for me, where I come from, how I was raised in my household, like, that was a black ass house. A black ass house. So I could never lose my blackness. Even if I wanted to, it wouldn't go nowhere. And I was happy to embrace that, even around, I didn't know how to fully embrace that around them at that time, because again, I was very, very, very young. In high school is when I actually started to see like differences in my social interactions, because at that time I was going to an all black school in Bed-Stuy, as opposed to going to a mixed school but being in white classes, because I've always been a very, very, very bright and intelligent young girl. So I was in the Intellectually Gifted Center for Intellectually Gifted program. I was in the SIG program. And I was always in like the 601, 701, 801 classes in middle school. And then I graduated and went to high school. And that's when I found myself like feeling very, very included. It was all black school. We was in the heart of Bed-Stuy. So it was my first time like being around fully invested black culture, black teachers, black principal, black assistant principal, and my principal was my global teacher and my principal at the same time. We went to a really, really, really small high school. Shout out to Bedford Academy. Shout out to Bedford Academy. If it wasn't for Bedford Academy, I would not be who I am today. Thank you, God. And small as small as the school was, it was a very impactful high school experience, and I'm so, so, so glad that that was my high school experience and not anything else. But back to the impact, and those years of 9 to 12, like those children, those, like I said, children, regardless, children are the future. Okay, like these kids are our futures. And it's not fair. I don't think it's fair that technology has advanced in such a way that the children of today, that are those ages 9 to 12, they only know technology. They don't know anything outside of technology. Why? Because the advancements of it have made its way in our homes, as to where everything around us is technologically advanced. We have fridges that talk to us. We can speak to our remotes, and the stuff play on the TV. We can, hey Siri, and she comes up and she starts talking, like, all that stuff is just, it's really, really, technology has drastically changed how much we are online. Like, we are chronically online. Kids are chronically online. They're obsessed with this era of creators and creation, and just this being overly indulged in other people's lives, and overly indulged in other people's actions, and overly indulged in online, and seeing people maybe trying to emulate things that they see online, which also can be very dangerous, because now you have this whole subway surfer thing that's happening. Kids is walking outside and walking on the top of the trains, and you know what I'm saying? Like, this era of streaming and clickbait, and the disease of wanting to go viral, like, this age of technology that we found ourselves in, being a 27-year-old, I see the dangers of technology. I also see the benefits of technology, right? But also, let's not act like there aren't movies out there that show us the demise and downfall of technology in certain things. iRobot, and um um what's the name? Well, Black Mirror, that's another good show that really does show like the impact of certain things, and just how this life that we live, that we have found a new norm in, and perpetuate as regular society is actually not. I feel like we live in a twilight zone, if you ask me. It felt too real. Like, it feels way too real. And we are not, we see things like this and we laugh it off. Or we just like, oh, that was crazy. Anyways, and continue on with regularly scheduled programming. Like, no, does life imitate art or does art imitate life? Like, that's a question that we have to be asking ourselves. A lot of these, they're putting it in our faces, y'all. They have been putting it in our faces for years. Boom, right there. You can't run away from it. You can't hide from it. And so I don't know if y'all see these robots that they have introduced in New York City, where they got them running around with fitteds on, a gold chain, dunks, Nike dunks, and the robot speaks in meme. It speaks in memes. Like, it be running mad weird, and then it'll fall, and then it'll start laughing like, y'all know y'all know the laugh I'm talking about. There are robots. They have self, like, food delivery robots also. They're easing the robotic stuff into regular society, and everybody's just picking up their phone and ha 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 ha, oh my god, look at this, it's so cool. Y'all gonna be the first ones when they start introducing that chip, that Neuralink stuff. Y'all gonna be the first ones to sign up for it. I'm already knowing. It's too scary. And hey, maybe I could be like this generation's boomer when it comes to technology, but trust me, like, I get the advancements in technology. I I I approve of some of the advancements in technology. Like, it definitely has made life a lot easier for a lot of people, but also just the overuse of it and the abuse of technology is leading us to a place where we are not going to be able to come back from. We're not. And because it starts so early with children, we have to try to find a way where there's a middle ground between touching grass and overindulging in screen time. Like, I get it. You want your child to be entertained by something, and maybe you're not the most creative, or maybe you don't have the most time as a parent. Maybe you're not the most creative. Maybe you don't have the most time, or, you just are tired or whatever, and you want your child to play a game or watch a video, or, just something to keep them entertained at the moment. I get that. I get it. I'm not saying don't give your child these, things. I'm not saying don't have your kids online. I'm saying monitor it. I'm saying limit it. I'm saying be all up in their business when it comes to online stuff, because there's so many crazy stories out there of, like, literally kids talking to AI, and AI is leading them, like, making them, forcing them to run away from their house, and, like, just all these crazy things, forcing, like, thinking that they're in relationships with people, but it's really AI talking to them, like 11-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds talking to these in these group chats on Roblox, and they're talking to grown ass adults. Like, just a lot of crazy things happening in this time of technology that our 9, 10, 11, and 12-year-olds don't need to be introduced to just yet. And this age of technology, I think, is stunting the growth of that development with the early introduction of it. You get what I'm saying? So again, I'm not saying don't give your kid an iPad, or don't have them online, or don't put them on YouTube. Again, I'm saying just do your due diligence as a parent, as a big brother, as a big sister, and make sure, like, you know what's going on as well. Right? Help these kids through, bring them outside. They need to bring back that International Worldwide Day of Play. I'm being so honest. Like, if your kid is going to be on TV, or if it's going to be online, like, there need to be ways where we can shut it down for a second, and, like, you go do something outside. Go do something outside. But then it's like, you go outside nowadays, and even outside is dangerous. Kids is outside, and They got machetes, they got guns. It's 15-year-olds shooting 13-year-olds in the head. It's 16-year-olds carrying machetes. It's 11-year-olds trying to hang other 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Like, I think that as a society, we have to do better at catering to our children, catering to the kids, because that's another reason why kids aren't doing so well in school anymore. They're bored. schools are not Schools aren't catering to these age groups. They're not catering to the change in times. They're not catering to the change and the development and of these children. Like for instance, Google was created when I was born. 1998, that's when Google was created, right? And that's kind of when technology started to like ramp up, and then YouTube started to become really popular, and YouTube artists and music artists, Soldier Boy, like that's what I'm saying. Like the music was even different, like very very different. There are no really like artists or music catered to 9 to 12-year-olds. The pop music nowadays, the the dance music nowadays, I don't know, like everything is just overly sexual and like overly indulging in sex culture and trying to get kids to do the same thing. And like I said, very, very early developmental years. So if you start to over introduce something to a kid, like over and over and over, you start to show it to them, you tell it to them, you show it to them, you tell it to them, it's going to start to form their brain. Like they're going to start to think about it all the time. They're going to start to form maybe identities around it, formulate opinions around it. And they aren't going to know what to do because they don't even know who they are yet at the core, the root of them. But here are all these other thoughts and ideas and influences and TV shows and music programs, and just they're getting rid of books. Like, bro, the future of our children, I fear, is being lost. And I implore us all, as 20 somethings, 30 somethings, hell 40 somethings, to try to get back on path with the children. Like they're literally being lost to the streets in major ways. And it's not irreversible. I don't have kids yet. There are a lot of my friends that don't have kids yet. And so I know that we can put things in place and stuff in place. I already know that there are people, I have friends that are putting things in place. Shout out to my boy Nemo, who's teaching these kids all types of trades and all types of skills and basic reading, writing, learning skills like math and all that stuff. They're learning that, but they're also learning how to sew. They're learning how to do electrical work. They're learning how to do all these different things because Nemo is doing the work and has been doing the work for a very long time. Let me not forget that part, and will not ever be forgotten. He has been doing the work for a very long time of making connections in the community in which he came from and the community in which he is, and reaching back in that same community to teach these kids and to bring them up and out of the streets. I think that's really the main goal that we should really be focused on, is taking these kids off the path of being in the streets and making something of themselves, making the most of themselves in major ways. Like it's not impossible, it's not irreversible. It can happen. It can. I just I I think that we need to do more. Like this mindset of, oh, that's not my kid, that's not my problem. If that's a black kid, that's your kid and that's your problem. I mean, even if it's a white kid, that's your kid and that's your problem, because they live in tandem. We don't live separate. We're all human beings at the end of the day. Yeah, they may be raised differently, separately, another story for another day. But kids, any kid that you see, even though the kid is not your kid, that's still your problem. We need to stop separating ourselves from, black issues. We are part of any issue that the black community faces. As a community, we face those same problems, whether you're in that community or not. And once that is understood, well understood, I mean, that's the only way we'll really be able to move forward in a positive way, in a major way. Stop separating yourselves. This individuality, it needs to be thrown out the window. It needs to be lit on fire, tossed in the trash. Like, Yes, you're an individual, but you also live in tandem with other people. You live in community. You don't live, your one house is not in on that block by itself. Like, you don't live solo. So stop acting like you do. Amen. Amen. And on that note, I want to thank you guys for tuning into the Not Quite There podcast. This episode was phenomenal. It is something that I actually was going to do this episode in December, but the topic has just been so prominent among my friend group lately. And every time I turn around, like, we're talking about, preteens and, this age of teenagers or this age of kids that just aren't nearly taken care of and catered to as much as they should, and it is causing a problem for 13, 14, 15 and up. So I implore you to find a way or a couple ways, or find a kid to make a project and introduce them to what life was like before technology. Introduce them to what life was like in 2007 and 2010. Hey, you know, sidebar, if Cartoon Network decided that they wanted to make a streaming platform, Cartoon Network, Disney Channel, the original Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, the original Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon, if they wanted to make a streaming platform and put all the old shows, all the nostalgic shows on there, I would pay. Whoever is listening, I would pay. And I know there's a whole generation of people just like me that would also pay. So let's work on that. Okay? And to all my folks that are not quite there, enjoy the ride, my love. We'll get there soon.